Let's talk about the political stakes right now. James, give us your assessment. How huge for both of these candidates are these stakes right now?
Well, I think it's sort of driven the stakes in the election to an unbelievably high place. And I think people are in a very somber mood out in the country. There was an 80% wrong track mood before this. And I think people are appropriately very concerned about what's happening. And you're looking at the government having to intervene in money market accounts now. You're looking at, you know, bailout after bailout after bailout. I mean, hopefully all this will work, but I suspect in the next 3 or 4 days, our eyes are going to be focused on the Congress to see what they do with this.
No, but even as the eyes are focused, Alex, on the Congress and on the legislation that's about to get through, we assume one way or another, the political fallout is enormous.
The political fallout's tremendous. It's going to affect both these candidates. You know, Barack Obama is going to have one challenge for him is that his economic plan that he's put forward so far has just really almost been stepped on by Treasury. Treasury's plan is, hey, we've got to help American business. We've got to help these people, lighten the load on them. The Obama plan has been, hey, we've got to take money from business, and that's the tax increases. That's the only place he's really raising taxes. So that's going to be a challenge for Obama to explain the next few days.
I hear James laughing. I want to bring the women in a second, but I got to let James react to that. Go ahead, James.
Never let a somber moment get in the way of a political attack. First of all, I think what's interesting is if we want to make a point is Senator McCain this week in contingency said that he wanted to model a health care system after the banking system. I don't think that's going to. I think that's what people want to do. And I do think that, and by the way, Senator Obama wants to cut taxes for people making under $250,000 a year. But having said that, I think what you're going to see is an enormous shift in young voters. And Alex knows when this administration took over President Clinton, there was a projected surplus of $5 trillion. I don't know how much debt that we have burdened the next generation with, but I think that Obama will get somewhere between 65 and 70% of the 18 to 39s. I think we're seeing a massive shift in generational politics.
Yeah. Hold on, James. I want to play a clip of what Senator McCain said on Friday, and I'll let Hillary respond to this. Go ahead and roll the tape.
I laid out my plan to solve these problems and grow our economy. About the same time, Senator Obama said that he isn't going to offer a plan.
All right, Hillary, go ahead.
Well, first of all, let's figure out the week. John McCain started the week with everything's fine, no big problem. When that didn't work, he hastily put together a plan that was essentially already created by Paul Volcker, an Obama advisor. And nobody's listening to the McCain plan. There is no plan. The plan is the Secretary of the Treasury asked the candidates to hold off while he met with the Congress to take a serious approach to this. Senator Obama laid out a series of principles that ought to be in that plan. We ought to protect Main Street, not just Wall Street. We ought to have regulatory authority, which he has been calling for the last 2 years, and John McCain's been silent. Instead, John McCain went out on Friday and made up a plan that he had never talked about before. And all of a sudden, he thinks he's at the table. I don't see that. He's not at the table. That's not leadership.
He did call for the creation of a new trust fund to deal with this crisis.
But he didn't create that idea. It wasn't his idea.
The bottom line, I don't think either of these candidates, in all fairness to most voters out there, have instilled a tremendous amount of confidence because of the back and forth. That being said, McCain was out there 2 years ago talking about the regulation and the fact that we needed to look at Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. McCain this week aggressively is now putting forth a plan that's talking about some of the trust fund and some of these efforts to protect taxpayers and also protect our savings and investment. But I think what's interesting, and very much to this point, very rarely do you get a real life situation, a crisis, where you can see how these candidates are going to react and people are able to make up their mind as decision makers. I think it's going to come to the 3 Ps: pressure, the press, and the public. Can they deal with those 3 elements? And I think many of those 10% of independent voters are going to make their decision this week.
Well, I think they have 3 presidential debates to assess as well, and 1 vice presidential debate. But let me play a clip from Senator Obama in Coral Gables, Florida on Friday. Listen to this.
Senator McCain gave a speech in which his big solution to this worldwide economic crisis was to blame me for it. After spending the entire campaign saying I haven't been in Washington long enough, he apparently now is willing to assign me responsibility for all of Washington's failures.
All right, Alex, what was Senator McCain talking about? Because, as you know, you can blame Senator Obama for some things. Certainly can't blame him for this financial crisis, can you?
I don't think that's going to fly, blaming Obama, but I don't think that's necessarily what Senator McCain was trying to do. You know, this thing didn't start, this financial crisis didn't start on Wall Street. This started in the Carter and Clinton administrations when people decided, hey, you know what, we're going to have affordable housing even for people who can't afford it. And so they loosened the rules and they created candy, home loans, dangling in front of people who couldn't afford them. But it was poison candy because it was things people couldn't pay back. So it was actually the regulation of the banking industry that started. And I think
hold on. I'm going to James to respond.
That's the point I think that Senator McCain was trying to make.
Go ahead, because you had something.
Of course, I knew it wouldn't be long after Clinton leaves a $5 trillion surplus and they appoint hacks and cronies in places like the SEC and the Treasury Department. They have Alberto Gonzales as Attorney General. They completely had to switch. They control the government for something like 6 years. And then their answer to everything is, gee, let's just off all of the debt on the next generation. The truth of the matter is that any number of people, Senator Hillary Clinton wrote a letter back in March, I think it was, of 2007, urging them to do something about this subprime thing. And by the way, I would remind you that President Bush and Senator McCain, the strongest backer, wanted legislation to allow people to put their Social Security into subprime mortgages and campaigned on that in 2004. So I
just want to press Alex. But Alex, weren't the Republicans the driving force in deregulating the financial sector? Senator Phil Gramm, when he was chairman of the banking committee, weren't they the ones who were leading this push, not the Democrats?
You can make an argument that Republicans' lack of oversight and lack of regulation of the banking industry, that's a fair debate to have. They exploited a bubble. But the other side that's not getting discussed is who created the bubble. Who let Americans go out there and borrow money without equity, without putting anything in the bank? Who created institutions like Countrywide and allowed that to happen that was exploited? And that, frankly, was the Community Redevelopment Act that under the Clinton and Carter
administration. Let's ask Hillary to respond to that. Go ahead.
It's just factually inaccurate. No, really, the subprime crisis started.
Bear Stearns was the first to securitize those loans in '97.
Multiple Wall Street firms were creating paper based on bad mortgages and bad assets.
But let's start with the bad mortgages. That's what I'm saying.
And there was ample authority over the last 8 years within the SEC and within the Treasury Department and within the Fed Reserve to do something about it, and they didn't.
The point on this is
this is just not going to be credible.
Washington has part of the fault here, too.
This is not going to be credible for Republicans to say, oh, sorry, it wasn't the last 8 years, it was the prior 8 years.
You know,
there's got to be a better argument
for people that are concerned. Let's bring it back, kind of ground this a little bit. For the people that are concerned about paying their mortgages and who's going to be the best economic steward of this economy, I think they're listening to the back and forth. They're saying, you know, the house is on fire. We don't really care who lit the match. Who is going to be most prepared to fix this? I think in that case, I think Senator McCain has come across strong, somebody putting forth ideas, and people need to hold it right.
Hold on. I hear James, he's snickering. Hold on, James. But when you say he's come across strong, Leslie, he says the fundamentals of the economy are strong one day, then he has to correct that. One day he says the government shouldn't bail out American International Group, the large insurance company. The next day, when the government decides to do that, he says, well, they had no choice to do it. Why do you say he's come out strong?
Well, I think the strongest point of that argument is that he's putting forth ideas. He's talking about what we can do to ride through this crisis versus Barack Obama, who has not taken positions. He's voting president on both the AIG bailout, the Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac. We still don't know where he's going to stand in that sense. And I think it's interesting also, if you look at the first debate that's coming up, the Obama campaign was pushing to put the economy for the third debate as opposed to the first one.
We'll get to the debates in a moment. James, go ahead, and then I'll take a break. Go ahead.
First of all, somebody's sitting at home. What are they talking about? Let's be clear. Senator Obama was meeting with Paul Volcker, Bob Rubin, Larry Summers. You know what Senator McCain was doing? Said we ought to have a commission look at this thing, which might be the single stupidest idea in presidential campaign history. So let's be very clear here. Let's be very clear about who was in charge of this government for the last 7.5 years. Let's be very clear that President William Jefferson Clinton left this country with a $5 trillion surplus. So everybody knows what the problem is. Everybody knows McCain has 177 lobbyists associated with his campaign, 19 of them, count them, 19, who have lobbied for Fannie or Freddie. So we're not going to let, I hope the Obama people doesn't let all this noise and chatter distract them from the real true message.
All right.
And that's a fact. Whether he wants the first or the third debate on the economy, what difference does it make? You probably want the last one with people.
Hold on, guys. We're going to pick up that thought. I'll let everybody weigh in. We have a lot more to talk about with our political